Hey everybody, Rosematter here, and welcome to part 65 of my Umineko Let's Play. The last episode got more into the two sides of Beatrice, Chick Beato, and the older sister Beatrice. Really going into the idea of, the different parts of the self, I'm guessing. I guess, going into how different parts of you create the complete self, the Beatrice that will eventually be created, the one that we know and love. However, as it has been stated, even if you give it 1,000 years, with different circumstances, you end up with a completely different person. So this chick Beato trying desperately to become the Beatrice that Badler wants, which was highlighted even more by her trying to be nice to him, and he just kind of lost it on her. It was trying to figure out okay, what is the point of all of this, And then we also had a sweet but kind of sad moment with Kanon going to kind of talk to Jessica about their relationship, since he and Shannon are kind of in a competition to see who is going to end up with their love, and asking Jessica, why do you love me? And the whole thing about furniture being brought up again. So, yeah, the last episode definitely, I guess because it's Battler's game, focusing on the emotional aspects of everything. Whereas with the previous game, it was just going snapped right into the murder. And I guess I'm kind of a little bit like Erika in a way, or maybe like the witches, where I'm like, all right, all this stuff is all well and good, but when's the killing gonna start happening? I don't know. Is it gonna be this episode? Let's see. Let's get into it. Let's see what happens next. Are they gonna tell us what it says? No? Ah. The flood of light and sound slowly dissipated. The silence that followed was not broken by any noise, not even the sound of the wind and rain outside that had been so clearly audible moments before. Oh! Both Jessica and George timidly opened their eyes. Where in the world was this? It was a strange room they had never seen before. It looked like a Western tea room. Its furnishings were stylish and expensive. It felt as though a dignified person must own this room. Preparations for black tea were set on the table, and so was a chessboard, which seemed to be halfway through a game. However, there was something strangely out of place. The black and white checkerboard pattern made it feel like chess, but it looked like a very similar yet totally different game that no one knew of. In the same way that it both looked like chess and not like chess, the furnishings of this room, no, the room as a whole, looked at first glance like a Western tea room, but also felt like something completely different.
ここは一体
ジェシカちゃんにカノン君もシャノンはどこに
ジョージ様
Yeah,
私はここにおります
this is the showdown between Shannon and Kanon. I guess they're playing a game to see who's gonna win.
僕もここにいます。お嬢様、ジョージ様、このような場所にお連れしたことをお詫びいたします。
一体何がどうなってるんだい。シャノンが取り出した蝶の羽のようなものが眩しく光り出したと思ったら、
私もだぜ。カノン君が黄金蝶のブローチとかいうのを取り出したら、それが輝き出して。お嬢様、ジョージさん、まずはご無礼をお許しください。そしてどうか落ち着いてください。これから不思議なことが起こります。その不思議な存在は私たちを試すでしょう。
試す？それがひょっとしてさっき君が言っていた僕たちが結ばれるために乗り越えなくてはならない試練というやつなのかい。
試練？
This is kind of like bringing me back to George and Jessica when there was the the question. They said, like, who will you sacrifice, like yourself, your loved one, or everybody else?
お嬢様にはまだ説明していませんでした。お詫びします。しかしどうか先ほどのお嬢様の言葉が本当ならどうか力を貸してください。僕も精一杯頑張りますから、どうか。
私にはさっきから何一つ分かりゃしねえぜ。ジョージ兄さんは何か知ってるの？
一応はね、今の状況を君同様に驚いてはいる。しかしこれが避けられぬ試練で僕たちに不可欠だと言うならば、
Yeah, I remember
僕は
George
何が訪れようとも
the
受け
last
て立
time.
つつもりだよ。
He said he was willing to sacrifice everybody else so that he and Shannon could be together. So if that's the case, I think George is gonna win this one. Just his pure like drive, like he said, he's willing to basically disown himself from the family, burn everything to the ground essentially, so he and Shannon can be together.
試練？
カノン君、ブローチを。
The two of them brought the halves of the broken golden fly brooch closer to each other. As they grew closer, the strength of their bright yellow radiance increased.
ジェシカちゃんもどうか心の準備をしてほしい。僕にはすでにその準備がある。
どういうことだよ。私にはさっぱりだぜ。一体何が起こってるんだ？
試練だよ。愛し合う二人のための試練。
George spoke those corny words without any hesitation. Look at him. Look at that face. He's ready like, I will kill you, Jessica, if it means I can be with Shannon. It was such an embarrassing line that Jessica couldn't help turning red. But the expression on George's face, which was so serious it was almost grim, forced her to tense up as well. Shannon and Kanon were just as serious. With a glow in their eyes, as though they were taking part in a sacred duel, the pair of them brought the two golden butterfly wings together. Then the wings they held became a single brooch and regained their magical power. An even more intense light filled the room, and the scene was burnt into the retinas of all present, as the brooch shattered and two shining things flew out of it. Oh, these are these demons or creatures or whoever they were from the very, very beginning at the wedding.
そう、愛こそは世界なり。
愛の力のなんと偉大なことか。愛こそは全てなり。
Suddenly, the voices of two people they'd never heard before rang out. What was this? Who were they? George and Jessica nervously opened their eyes. When they did, they saw that two demons had appeared there, almost as though the brooch, which had once been split in two, had become them.
おや、おかしいぞフルフル。
Oh, that's hence the name of this chapter. I was like, what does that mean? The fur and what was the other thing?
どうして我らはこのようなところに？
The other name,
本当に不思議ですわ。
Zephyr.
ゼパル、人間と家具しかいない。魔女はどこ？私たちを呼び出すにふさわしい魔女の姿はどこに？
ああ、僕たちは契約の魔女の名前をよく覚えているはずさ。呼んでみようじゃないか、フルフル。
ええ、そうね、ゼパル。私たちは契約の魔女、黄金の魔女の名前を知っている。
じゃあ呼んでみよう。
せーの。
Given their manner, exaggerated like a theater play, and their slightly ridiculous style of talking, it would probably be hard to immediately comprehend the great power these demons possessed. When the two demons called Beatrice's name, a cyclone of gold butterflies picked up throughout the room. Then it took the form of two golden witches.
あれ？ベアトリーチェ が2人だわ。
僕たちだって2人だもの。ベアトリーチェがたまには2人だっておかしくはないさ。
こやつはわらわの分身にして妹だ。2人は同じにして1人と同じ。
はじめまして。お久しぶりです、ベアトリーチェ様。
私は
同感だね。しかし呆然自失するにはまだ早いよ。
Unlike Jessica, George had maintained his composure even during this bizarre scene. After all, Shannon had already told him what would happen next.
契約の悪魔たちよ、久しぶりであるな。
I feel like George has a little bit of a advantage. Kanon, you couldn't have told Jessica, given her a little bit more of a heads up?
ゼパル、それにフルフル。
Alright, let's check. We got the 2 new characters. Constantly new characters. Alright, Zephyr. I'm probably saying these names wrong, I apologize. One of the 72 great demons presides over love and tests others through trials. Zephyr grants the contractor undying, immeasurable defensive power. This gives the contractor the courage not to dread any of love's wounds. A hunter of love who loves to prey upon passive men is of a different gender than Furfur. Furfur, one of the 72 great demons, presides over love and tests others through trials. Furfur grants the contractor endless, inexhaustible offensive power. This gives the contractor the courage not to fear any of love's barriers. A trainer of love who teaches passive men the taste of flesh is of a different gender than Zephyr. So I apologize. Right at the beginning, I did gender them. So people were saying I should refer to them as they. So I will do my best with that. Because they don't specify, they're just saying is of a different gender, but they're not saying who's who.
ああ、お久しぶり。君は相変わらず元気そうだね。
それにしても可愛らしい妹君。潤んだそのみずみずしい瞳は水蜜糖の味がするんじゃないかしら。
どうでしょうか。
Zephyr and Furfur latched onto Beato from either side, wearing strange smiles. Each movement they made was exaggerated yet polished, as though they were acting out a play.
それくらいにしておけ、契約の悪魔たちよ。その悪ふざけも今宵限りで見納めとはな。寂しいものだ。見納めとは？
僕たちのよりしろのブローチはもう壊されてしまったからね。
つまりこれでもお役御免というわけ。はあ、今まで本当に楽しかったわ、ベアトリーチェ。
So these characters are just introduced and they're like, peace out? Okay.
でも契約時の取り決めでね、最後の別れにもう一度だけ力を貸さねばならないと決まっていたのさ。
There's gotta be something to these characters more than just being like, we're here to help with this trial.
だからこれが正真正銘最後の奇跡。
愛の奇跡は一度で十分だって、永久の愛に二度目は不要なのだから。
そういうわけだ。愛し合う男女たちよ、ここに集いしは奇跡なくして恋を成就できぬ呪われし者たち。その奇跡を与える黄金蝶のブローチの力は泣こうがわめこうが今宵限り最後のチャンス。
This is that Beatrice. This is the OG. That look in her eyes. The way she's talking.
それは一組のつがいにしか与えられぬ。
僕は負けないよ。
Are these two gonna fight? We haven't had like a good fight scene in a while, so it'll be sad to see them fight against each other if that's the case, but
お互い頑張ろうね。
Shannon and Kanon exchanged a serious gaze. Both had already readied themselves to fight. Oh, here we go. Literally fight? To fight for the sake of their love's success.
よくわからねえけどよ。おかしな悪魔の力なんて
世話になる気はねえ
And
ぜ
of course, Jessica's like, my fists are enough. Jessica was finally starting to figure out the direction things were headed. These demons were probably planning to pit her and Kanon against George and Shannon.
はっきり言わせてもらうが余計なお世話だぜ。私とカノン君の仲は私とカノン君でどうにかする。怪しげな悪魔の世話になんかなる義理はさらさらねえぜ。
お嬢様、聞いてください。この試練を乗り越えなければ僕たちは結ばれないのです。
ジェシカ、受け入れよ。それが家具の実で人間と結ばれようと願う身の程知らずに課せられる唯一の試練なのである。
家具とか人間とか勝手に言ってろってんだ。私たちには何の関係もねえぜ。
お嬢様にはまだ話していないの？
どう説明すればいいかわからなくて。
カノン君もシャノンもジョージ兄さんもどうしてこんなうさんくさい話に耳を貸してんだ。人の恋路を邪魔するやつは馬に蹴られて死ねって決まってんだぜ。なんで悪魔たちに認められなきゃならねえんだよ。余計なお世話だぜ。
さては困った分からず屋がいたものよ。このままゲームを始めてもよいが、それではフェアとは言えぬな。
説明してあげてもいいのではないでしょうか。私にもよくわかりません。ジェシカさんとカノンさんの恋に何か問題でもあるというのですか？
やれやれ、どうやら君も君たちも何も分かっていないようだね。
I feel like Jessica right now. I'm like, I get the gist of it, but let's go into a little bit more detail about like just throwing them into the trial. Like, how is it gonna work?
私たちに祝福されれば二人の恋をゆっくり育むことができるの。うさんくさい悪魔も何にも関係ないわ。
でも、もし僕らに祝福されなければ、君たちの恋路は消えてなくなり、枯れてしおれて消えてしまう。
なんでそんなことが言えるんだよ。
運命だから。認めないのも自由、抗わないことだって自由。
抗わないとどうなるんですか？
恋路が終わると抽象的な言い方では納得すまい。はて、どう説明すればそなたの運命の袋小路を説明できるのか。
後宮ジェシカ、君が信じているよりはるかに君たちの未来は善と多難。
魔法の奇跡が得られなかったなら必ずや二人に災いが訪れるの。
そしてそれがかぶれただれ二人を破綻させる。わらわもその過程を詳細に語るほど無粋ではない。
Okay, what about Shannon and George?
しかしジェシカが信じぬというなら破綻の最後だけ語ろう。カノンは使用人をやめ
Okay.
この島を去る。永遠にな。
Well, that's what Shannon said, right? She was gonna leave and never come back. And if Kanon loses, he'll leave and never come back.
君は島を出て思い人を探す旅に出るだろうね。しか
そうしてあなたは嘆いて恨むの。
誰を？
Will Kanon leave because Shannon is leaving? Because, like, he said that if Shannon leaves, he would leave too?
あなたを。
僕をかい？いいえ、今のあなたを。
With a dramatic gesture, the two of them pointed at Jessica. They were saying if she passed this by, it would be herself who would regret it later.
何を言ってやがる。
思い人を失ったあなたはその時気づくわ。思いを遂げる試練を逃げたあの時の自分が憎いって。
そうさ、僕たちは未来の君からのメッセンジャー。どうか今のこの瞬間を君の恋に真剣になって戦いに臨んでほしい。
もしあなたが未来の自分のメッセージに耳を貸さないならば
王を飲み込む愚かな蛇はそのままどんどん飲み込み続け、
永遠の苦悩の輪廻は自らを飲み込み消えるのみよ。
わけがわからない。
Jessica's confusion showed up on her face as anger. However, a memory of something she had heard a long time ago surfaced in the back of her mind. Unlike Nissan, I don't plan on working here for many years. After just a few years, or possibly, if Nissan ever decides to stop working here, I think I'll stop working too. That's why Jessica said when Shannon leaves, she said that she was engaged. Jessica's like, oh, so you're probably leaving too.
そなたが魔法の奇跡をシャノンとジョージに譲るなら、二人は結ばれ島を出る。そしてカノンもまた島を出る。それは避け得ぬ運命なのだ。
では魔法の奇跡を得られたなら。
無論カノンは島にとどまり、いつまでもジェシカのそばにいる。ジェシカが望んだ音楽活動とやらも一緒に始められるだろう。それ以上の関係にどう進むかは愛し合う二人の問題だ。ジェシカが望むように二人だけでゆっくりと関係を育めばよい。
ただその場合は私とジョージさんもまた結ばれません。
僕たちは自らの幸せと未来をかけて戦わねばならぬ運命なんです。
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious based on how I've been talking. If I had to choose who I want to win, it's obviously Kanon and Jessica. I definitely prefer them.
ふざけるなよ。なんだよそれ。つまり自分たちが結ばれれば必ず相手は破綻するのか。
Jessica just wants to know, like me, like why can't both of them be happy?
そんな悪魔のゲーム冗談じゃねえぜ。
間違えるな。そなたらが奪い合うゲームではない。黄金蝶のブローチの力がなければ、そもそもどちらの恋も実らぬ運命なのだ。
There's the whole thing about the brooch again. The brooch, I was like, no, it does not actually grant magical powers. I refuse to believe that. Like, no, I think it's just maybe because Shannon and Kanon are so brainwashed to be furniture, like they it's like a placebo thing where it's like, if I believe that this thing will allow me to have love, then I will actually go out of my way to actually start to get the relationship going.
誰がそんな運命を決めたんだよ。
恋を許されぬ家具に恋したそなたらの罪ゆえにだ。カノンはそなたにはっきりと家具は恋をする資格がないと拒んだはず。そなたはそれを承知でカノンを恋の相手に選んだのだ。
I just noticed on Beatrice's face. I don't know if that's just like a hair, but it looks like there's almost a little something under her bangs there, like a scar or something.
知らぬとは言わせぬ。
No, she couldn't accept any of it. Jessica was unable to argue back. Then George spoke up with that soft tone he always used to smooth things over. However, his expression was still ruthlessly serious.
ジェシカちゃん、こう考えないかい？
考えるって何を。
僕はね、シャノンを愛している。どんな試練も障害も全て乗り越えて結ばれようという覚悟を持っているよ。君はどうだい？
そりゃ私だって多少のことでへこたれるほど嫌なつもりはねえぜ。
ならそういうことだよ。僕たちは今試されているのさ。僕たちがどれだけ気持ちの強さを示せるかということをね。
ジョージ兄さんはこのわけのわからない話で
納得なんか必要ないよ。僕はシャノンと結ばれるために全ての試練と障害と戦うことを 婚約指輪にかけて誓った。どんな理不尽な到底理解できない試練であっても僕に退くという選択肢はないね。
George spoke clearly, then looked at Jessica with a cold gaze. He's like, I'm ready to murder you. By now, Jessica almost understood. If she kept on grumbling and refusing this demon's trial, the game between the two groups would automatically end with her defeat by default. In other words, George and Shannon would win. Then they would gain the miracle of magic, their love would be completed, and Jessica and Kanon would split apart, with Kanon eventually leaving the island and never seeing her again.
僕にとって君がこの試練を辞退してくれるなら
I was gonna say, George kind of showing his hand. If he just kept his mouth shut, Jessica would just lose by default, but I think he wanted to give her maybe a fair fight.
君と戦わなくて済むからね。そして君のカノン君への思いはその程度のものだったんだねと蔑むことになるんだ。
It seemed as though George spoke ruthlessly, but he was actually being exceptionally fair. If it came to a loss by default, Jessica would never be able to clear away her lingering regrets. That would leave a bad aftertaste, even for George.
僕たちはたった一つの奇跡をめぐって正々堂々と戦わなくちゃならない。その結果、仮に僕が敗れたとしても互いがベストを尽くして戦った上での結果なら諦めがつく。そしてだからこそ心の底から相手を祝福できるんだ。
All right. Not a big fan of George, but I'll give him credit for that. That's a very fair and mature way to look at it.
ジョージの覚悟なかなかのものよ。
そこまで言われて。
君は逃げ出すのかい？
The two demons giggled and challenged her. Of course, George didn't laugh, but he too challenged her with cold eyes.
シャノンはお許しください、お嬢様。私はジョージさんと結ばれるために一歩たりとも引かない覚悟です。たとえ私の思いを貫くことがお嬢様の恋路を閉ざすことを知っていようとも。
Shannon had never spoken to Jessica with such serious and solemn words. Jessica was surprised to realize just how strong the determination was that dwelt within her usually weak and clumsy friend.
カノン君、
僕はお嬢様と新しい人生を歩みたいです。
If I was to say based on like if we were to go RPG style, go with stats, I feel like Shannon and George are the stronger team. We'll see what happens here.
その歩みが姉さんの幸せを踏み越えていくことを意味しようとも僕はここを引きたくない。
Kanon was also doing all he could to be strong. Yes, all of them were being serious and frank and abandoning any naivety they might have possessed. All this about golden butterfly brooches and miracles of magic, and the trial that the demons were giving them. None of it mattered. Only one thing was being tested: whether or not they possessed the strong will to make their love come true. Jessica clenched her fists and hung her head, shaking while biting her lower lip. She was silent, but she would probably gain an unswerving will of steel before too long. She just needed a little time first. The two demons who taunted people with dramatic gestures did not violate the silence that Jessica needed to resolve herself. Love brings about conflict, and this conflict gives rise to determination. As the demons of love, they could understand more fully than any others how noble that determination was.
ジェシカさん、
そしてその魔法の奇跡はそなたであっても享受できるものであるぞ。
私にもそれはどういう。
She had thought this had been about two pairs of lovers. Beato was surprised to suddenly hear that this had something to do with her as well. Of course, they're all connected somehow.
黄金蝶のブローチの奇跡はそなたの願い。 バトラーへの行為を認められたいという願いさえも叶えることはたやすい。そしてその奇跡なくして結ばれることもまたない。
君も蚊帳の外じゃないということさ。
This is like a battle royale right now.
愛の沼を渡りきりたい。あなたの望みのはず。
僕たちは君の願いだって決してないがしろにしたりはしない。
そなたとバトラの関係とてやがてはただれ腐り落ちる。いくら楽観的なそなたであっても何かの奇跡がない限りやがてはそのような運命を迎えることをすでに理解しているはずだ。
それは
Beato hung her head sadly. She wasn't about to let the cookie incident break her spirit. However, it would be a massive lie to say that it hadn't hurt her. The more she tried to get close to Badler, the more she hurt him. However, she had been born in order to get close to Badler. She was like a hedgehog freezing in the cold and bunching together with others for warmth. She had approached him because of love and had been hurt for it.
そこまで分かっているなら奇跡に託すのもまた一興というものよ。川の宝くじに当たりなしとも言うでな。ゼパル、フルフル。
Furu Furu. Maybe I'll say Furfur. Furu Furu and Zephyr. Okay, I gotta try to remember that.
このわらわの妹も加えよ。
ああ、もちろん。
よろしく。もう一人のベアトリーチェ。私たちは初めからあなたも加えるつもりでいましたわ。
なぜなら僕らはゼパルとフルフル、愛を司る悪魔だから。
私も参加してもよろしいのでしょうか。
君が望むならいいんじゃないかい。誰であっても僕は拒まないよ。全ての障害に勝利し、全員に僕たちを祝福させる。もちろん逆でもさ。全力の僕たちを退けて成し得た恋ならば、僕もシャノンも心の底から勝利した二人を祝福することを約束するよね、シャノン。
はい、私たちは負けません。そして負けても心の底から祝福します。
僕も同じです。僕は負けません。
いけねえ喧嘩だってんなら買おうじゃねえかよ。私もカノン君も不先輩ってのだけはごめんだぜ。
それはそなたもだな。
はい、お父様に、いえ、バトラさんに私を認めてもらえる可能性が、私もそれに自らをかけたいと思います。
よくぞ言った。それでこそ我が妹。ゼパル、フルフル、役者は揃ったぞ。
それでは始めようか、フルフル。
ええ、始めましょう、ゼパル。
たった一つの魔法の奇跡をめぐっての愛し合う者たちの試練を。
This should be interesting. This should be interesting. Now, if this was like full power Beatrice, that'd be one thing, but we've got like weak, meek, no power human Beatrice, but maybe she'll unleash some power that we don't know about. Ah, well, I mean, we're gonna hopefully see it soon, but knowing this game is probably gonna throw us into a completely different scenario right now. All right, okay, we're back to Erika. It's funny, I've been like clamoring for Erika, but right before that whole trial, I'm like, yes, let's do this. Let's see this fight. And now I'm almost a little disappointed. Erika returned to the room that had been given to her on the second floor of the guest house. The next room over was empty. It was very quiet there. Even pressing her ears against the wall wouldn't enable her to listen in on the voices in the cousins' room. Even with hearing power boosted by the detective's authority, it would probably be impossible to make out anything. This room was the farthest down the hall, a long ways away from the cousin's room.
前回は私の部屋はいとこ部屋の隣だったのに。
I'm sure Badler did this on purpose on his game board. It's like, no, 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 you don't get that room.
なるほど。
Yeah.
今回は私の部屋を遠ざけてきましたか。
ゲームマスター権限で許された範囲の初期配置の変更です。妥当な処定かと。
まあその方が私もいいです。あのクソガキどものトランプで遊ぶ黄色い声なんて聞きたくもありませんから。
This whole time, Erika had been sitting at the desk working at something. She was preparing some of those duct tape seals from before. She had asked Kumasawa for the stickiest tape available. She drew a complicated, unforgeable signature on them with a permanent marker, then added slits through it. By sticking this over a place that she wanted to prove had remained closed, she could create a powerful seal equal in strength to the Red Truth. Those menacing seals had cornered Natsui so thoroughly in the previous game.
これ
いかがしましたか？
Did Badler do something to the tape?
やられました。
Yep.
パトラめ周到ですね。
Erika shrugged and showed the piece of duct tape she had cut off to Delanor. By sight alone, Delanor couldn't tell what had annoyed Erika. However, as soon as she held the tape, she realized the difference right away.
これではダメです。
ええ、粘着力ほとんどないです。これじゃあ赤き真実には至れない。
Even duct tape can be of low quality, and it sometimes gets weaker with age. The tape Kumasawa had found was a bit too weak even for normal use. It wasn't nearly sticky enough to be used as a detective seal.
きれいに剥がすことが可能です。これでは封印を示す証拠にはなり得ません。
バトラもそこまで見下げ果てたほど無能じゃないってことですね。おそらくゲームマスター権限でこの島のすべてのガムテープに干渉したんでしょう。
It's like you're playing a fighting game or something where the AI learns your moves and learns to anticipate them and have a some way to deflect it or to block it or to counter it. Letting Erika get her hands on duct tape gave her a fatal weapon to use against witches. The previous game had proven this fact. And so Badler had removed that weapon from the entire mansion.
おそらくガムテープに代わる品もすべて干渉を受けているに違いないです。
ですね。ま、良かったことにしておきます。おかげでこの冷たい雨の中みっともない姿で外壁を這い回らなくて済みますから。
I just want to see an image of that because she was in her bathing suit, right? Just her like crawling around like a like a spider lady on the sides of the house, just setting up these traps. Erika tossed the duct tape aside and flopped spread eagle onto the bed.
事件が起こるのをパイプ吹かして悠然と待つのも探偵のたしなみですし、あんたもどうせ第一の番が発覚するまで出番ないんですから、どこかに姿消して一服でもしてたらどうですか？私の顔なんか見てても疲れるだけでしょうし。
タバコは吸わないです。子供ですので。
そうですか。私は吸いたいです。出演者たちが歌うほどの気分を爽快にさせる効果があるならの話ですが。
ご機嫌が優れられないようです。
I'm surprised she's this beaten down so early. You think that she'd be like, oh, finally, a real challenge. But at the same time, she wants to be able to win, like, decisively, so this is also pretty aggravating, I imagine.
そう見えます？
Erika answered lazily, still looking up at the ceiling. That in itself was half an answer. The silence between the two was filled by the sound of the wind and rain. It was so quiet that it was hard not to listen to the ticking of the clock.
エリカ卿、お尋ねしてもよろしいですか？
内容によります。多分ノーですが。 一応暇つぶしに聞いてあげます。何です？
Erika was probably bored as well, or maybe the sound of the rain was making her sentimental. She assented, which was very unlike her.
なぜエリカ卿は魔法を嫌われるのです？
ああ、さっきの下のマリアとのやりとりの件ですか？
あんなの子供騙しのくだらない手品です。誰だって分かっています。ああまでして幻想を打ち砕く必要があったのですか？私には分からないです。
It had been a childish fight. Well, Erika is quite childish. Erika didn't need Delanor to tell her that.
自称知的蹂躙者としましては、魔法なんてもので真実をうやむやにすることが許せないわけです。
それを暴くことに優越を感じられているということですか？私には他の感情が感じられます。
他の感情？何です？
優越というよりはもっと何か別の負の感情を感じます。
やっぱりあんたはただの殺人人形です。その目も節穴みたいですね。
失礼しました。許してほしいです。
Aw, I like Delanor. Erika rolled over grumpily, turning her back to Delanor. Because of this, Delanor couldn't see her expression. Even so, for some reason, she could guess that this completely unobserved expression was one of pain. Interpreting this to mean that Erika wanted her to go away, Delanor gave a bow and made to leave. Then Erika suddenly spoke. Oh, we're gonna get some Erika backstory. The words came so far out of the blue that Delanor doubted her ears, and she had to ask Erika to say it again.
今、何とおっしゃいましたか？
あなたのことが好きです。
What? Whoa, yeah, that is like the last thing I was expecting. It really was out of the blue. Delanor wanted to ascertain what Erika really meant, but the latter still had her back turned, and her face was out of sight. Maybe she's not speaking to Delanor.
ございます。
I can't understand Japanese, but I can even hear in the like voice acting, I'm like, she's just like, this is awkward.
以前は別の子と付き合っていましたが、
Never mind.
今
Okay.
は完全に切れています。周りの人たちは僕たちを妬んでありもしないことを言いますが、気にしないでください。
Delanor is like, I'm just a kid. I guess Erika sort of is too. They said that she's like a 13-year-old or something that equivalent.
俺は君に生涯のすべてを捧げるから、
I am
君
so
も俺に
confused
すべ
right
てを
now.
捧げてほしい。二人で一緒に幸せになろう。
Delanor avoided asking what she was talking about and stood there in silence. For a while, Erika kept on speaking in that dull and emotionless tone, repeating soppy phrases that might have popped up in some shoujo manga. Then unexpectedly, she once again followed up with a complete non sequitur.
新しい財布。
Of course, she had no idea what Erika was saying. However, with her back still to Delanor, Erika kept on saying disconnected words.
変な猫のキーホルダー。趣味の合わないアロマオイル。
It's almost like she's been possessed and she's speaking like thoughts of like the dead or something.
演劇の先輩に借りたという趣味違いの音楽テープ。先輩の付き合いで断れなくて、急にバイトが入っちゃって、ダチの電話が長くてなかなか切れなくって。
He made too much curry. He started going to theater practice more often. He started folding paper towels differently. Thanks, I've already eaten. He knew more than before about cosmetics. Sorry, I was sleeping. The toilet seat was left down. He spent the night over at a stage friend's place. Me and my acting friends had a party here. Someone just left it behind. The drain and sink were cleaned out. There were receipts and point cards from places he didn't usually go to. The muddy soles are evidence that you went out on Monday when it was raining. It matches the strange symbol on the calendar. None of your theater friends have hair this long. Leading questions. How do you know the plot of a movie you haven't seen yet? Evidence, evidence, circumstantial evidence, observation, surveillance, tracking, tailing, information gathering, wiretapping, asking around, questioning. I found plenty of evidence that I loved you. I found plenty of evidence that you loved me. But I can't find any evidence that you haven't been cheating on me. What in the world is this? Give it a rest. If you love me, then trust me. If you can't do that, and you don't love me anymore... Ooh, I'm hearing like water dripping. How could I love someone like that? I'll treasure you for all my life, but I want to do well in theater just as much. You said you liked seeing me act, right? So why are you telling me to stop acting now? Why do I have to choose between you and acting? What's wrong with you? I'm seriously tired of this, alright? Look, if all we do is fight when we see each other, maybe we both need some time to cool off, okay? I need to concentrate for my next performance anyway. One of my colleagues, she suddenly told us she won't be able to perform. I need to rewrite the script by tomorrow. I don't have time for this. You know what? If you really find it that hard to trust me, we're through. Don't bother coming over again. Just go home. I don't love you anymore. Stop crying. God, you're obnoxious. Go kill yourself, you creep. Stop shouting, damn it. I've got neighbors. Just get the hell away from me and never come back. What? What? This game never fails to surprise me.
愛がなければ見えない
Is this why she's kind of like Beatrice, who seems to be like so against love and seems to get angry when people are in love.
逆なんですよ愛なんかあるからありもしないものが見えてしまう
It's nothing more than an illusion, one no one except you can see, and one that even you can never touch. Without love, humans would never need to see that fiction, because we can see it, we doubt, we suffer, we cry out loud.
私は今幸せです仮とはいえ真実の魔女になれて今の私はもう赤くない言葉に苦しめられなくて済むのだからあんたなら私のエンドゲームどう返しますか
私ですか
あの凡庸な男じゃゲームの相手は務まりませんでしたから
Are you still talking about Battler or someone else?
あんたならどう返してくれるかと思いまして
Delaunor was suddenly thrust into the position of Erika's opponent in the witch's game she had once challenged that man with. Delaunor shared in the fragment of Erika's past, allowing her to grasp the full situation. Yes, please. The board was reproduced in full inside their heads. The situation was one-sided. Erika's side had constructed a blue truth based on countless bits of circumstantial evidence, had turned all of those into pieces, and was already cornering the opponent. For some time, Delaunor thought in silence, and announced her by-the-book response.
初手私が浮気している証拠の提出を要求します
Like, is an Erika a representation of someone, like, who actually exists, but who is, like, older? Because, like, if she's a child, like she says, like, like, middle school or whatever, this seems really heavy. So this is, like, because Erika, or whoever this is, they couldn't give, like, true evidence that anything happened. And so she was left with doubt, I guess, or, like, was angry that she couldn't get, like, a confession. That's why she's so about, like, the truth and shattering all the illusions and, like, only having it so that there's only the real truth.
青き真実で反論構築に状況証拠物的証拠84点提出
Erika sounds kind of like a cray-cray girlfriend, I'm not gonna lie.
青き真実で反論
Cheating is horrible, but I'm just like, damn. I mean, she's one of those girls you don't want to fuck around on.
今も愛し続けている状況証拠物的証拠を6点提出です
グッド青と青では相殺ですが構築する駒の数が圧倒的ですね
When both opponents met with the blue truth, the decision is almost always based on which side has more pieces of evidence, regardless of the actual circumstances. This is especially true in the human world. So by the standard rules, Erika would win.
一点選手次なる手は
攻守逆転を狙います逆にエリカ卿が浮気をしていない証拠の提出を求めます
パーペチュアルチェックお互いが同じ質問を無限連鎖する千日手となりますから禁じ手です
Yeah, that seems thankfully never happened to me, but I've heard stories over and over again about like if someone it's one of those things where it's like it's a guilty conscience a little bit, but like if someone is doing something like cheating, then they'll turn it around and either just to like put the pressure off themselves, or truthfully they believe it because they're like, well, if I'm cheating, then surely my partner is cheating as well. Then they'll just throw it back at them and be like, well, you're the one.
では証拠なくも現在もエリカ卿を愛していることを率直に表明します
赤き真実でないから無効です仮に赤かったとしてもそれステイルメイト
And that was the whole thing where she said, right, about like when people say that they like when Natsu was going on about how she loved Kraus, where Erika was like, if it's not in red, how can you believe that? That's not true. A statement is only true if it's in red.
私に反論する手がなくなりますから
Delanor remained silent for a while. She responded quietly to Erika's moves, as Erika drew closer and closer to checkmate. A stalemate is a forbidden move in the game of witches, since it means the ruin of the game. However, in chess, it also represents a draw. Because of this, it is a splendid final move that the weaker player can pull off if they're already unable to win outright. In this situation, Erika clearly had the advantage. It was natural that Delanor, her opponent, would seek a stalemate to obtain a draw. However, that only worked in chess. In the game where witches fought over a truth, it was a forbidden move. So it was already checkmate from the very beginning. Delanor had no way to turn the game around. But that meant that regardless of what the real truth had been, this game would.
他に手は真実を守る魔女狩り大司教
いえリザインです
ねほら
Erika had succeeded in crushing her opponent with the truth she espoused, that her former boyfriend no longer loved her and was cheating on her. Her opponent had no way to argue back. After all, humans are not allowed to use blank. I'm guessing that's like the red truth. A splendid game, a splendid finish from a superior position. Regardless of the truth of her opponent, Erika could win. A splendid victory. Delanor could only respond with silence. And with that, Erika spoke no more. She was probably done talking and wanted Delanor to leave. Is this like Erika being like, this is how it should have gone. I should have won. Like, absolutely should have crushed it, like had this boyfriend admit that she was right. But of course, humans, it's never that clean cut. Some people will just deny, and not give you the satisfaction of like confirming that you're right. Delanor understood this, but even so, she wanted to tell Erika just one thing before leaving.
見事なゲームです
探偵は勝利して当然ですから
あなたはベルンカステル教の駒になる以前から実に見事な青き真実の使い手ですしかしエリカ教人間に許されるのは 青き真実だけです。そして青き真実に反論できるのは赤き真実だけです。そして赤き真実は人間には許されていま
That's
せ
right.
ん。
And Erika was a human up until recently when she was given the role of like the witch, or the the piece where she's allowed to use the red truth.
ならばどうやってあなたのお相手は彼の真実を示せばよかったのですか？
That's the thing too. Yeah, it's like Deleanor saying, like, even if she was wrong and the boyfriend never cheated, she would refuse to accept that. Until she gets a red truth, she's like, I won't accept anything you say.
さあ、赤き真実に時に勝るとかいう例の黄金の真実とやらでも持ち出したらどうですか？
ゲームは確かにエリカ教の勝ちです。しかし真実の守護者として申し上げます。
なんです？どうせ不愉快なことでしょうから、それを言ったらとっとと消えてください。
はい、確かにこのゲームはエリカ教の勝ちです。しかし私が示したあなたを今も愛している青き真実の証拠6点は未だ否定されていません。あなたさえ人間、それを否定する赤き真実を使えはしないのです。
探偵権限で84点の証拠を赤き真実に後に昇格させました。我が主のお力によって私は人間にして人間を超えた存在、探偵にして魔女、真実の魔女フルドエリカです。他に質問は？捨て台詞は？
ありません。それでは失礼いたします。
Deleanor bowed and disappeared. After that, all that remains was a single witch of truth laughing off a bitter past, with an equally bitter smile. Wow, actually got some Erika backstory to make her a little bit more sympathetic. We're really going into the love aspect, even with Erika, which I never would have expected to see, like, a backstory on Erika's love life. Erika glanced at the bedside clock and saw it was almost exactly midnight. Holy cow. It's taken so long to get to this point.
さーて、一寝入りさせてもらえますか。いよいよ2日目、10月5日の幕開けです。今頃どこかで今回の殺人が起こっているんでしょうかね。今回の犠牲者さん、せいぜいいろいろなダイイングメッセージをよろしくお願いしますね。
Maybe, but probably, I'm guessing, at least one locked room scenario. Alright, here we go. It's happening. Whether we actually get to see the aftermath right away or not. Oh?
どうして母さんに相談しなかったの？あなたの人生を最後まで支えるパートナーの話なのよ。
そうだよ。生涯一緒にいたい女性なんだ。
だからこそ真剣に決めなければいけないんでしょ？どうしてそんな軽率に？
I wonder if the hypothetical, the trial, if this is George's trial right now. He said he was going to, not care if he was disowned or if his parents agreed, and this is where he's gotta put up. Ava and George could be seen beneath the eaves of the guest house. George had revealed his engagement with Shannon. Ava's anger had exploded almost instantly. This had been no more than George had expected, so he had responded with an ice-cold calm.
まさかもう関係を？子供ができたとか言われて結婚を迫られたんでしょ？
失礼だな。僕は婚前の貞操は厳しくあるべき主義なんだ。
じゃあどうして婚約なんて？
僕は求めた。彼女は受けた。それで成立じゃないか。
違うわ違うわ。結婚はね、あんたが思ってるような漫画か何かみたいに簡単なものじゃないの。先方のご両親は、両家の交流は、あんた野良猫じゃないのよ。後ろ宮ジョージなのよ。ひょっとしたら おじい様の後継者に指名されるかもしれないこの時期にどうしてそんな軽率な。どうして母さんに相談してくれなかったの。
今こうして相談してるよ。いや、相談じゃないか。これはただの報告だね。おじい様の後継者に指名されるのは全く期待してないよ。いや、むしろ辞退したいくらいさ。僕は自分の国と城を父さんがそうしたように何もない原野に築き上げたい。
あのね、父さんが今日までどれくらいの苦労をしたのか分かってるの。あんたが真似てできるようなことじゃないの。今日までどれほどの運や偶然に助けられたことか。
そして母さんという良き理解者の伴侶がいたからだよ。さよは僕を支え、より強く生まれ変わらせてくれる人だ。母さんがたくましくなったと褒めてくれた今の僕は、彼女がいなかったらありえない。
はあ、いいジョージ。とにかくここは一度母さんに任せなさい。
Are you gonna handle it by murder?
頭を冷やしてよく考えて。
Why do I have a feeling Shannon's gonna end up on the first Twilight? She's gonna be one of the ones dead. And then George is gonna have his suspicions on his mom.
シャノンちゃんだけがあなたに好意を持ってるわけじゃないのよ。お見合いしたあゆみさんだってあなたのことをとても気に入ったそうよ。
初耳だね。
あなたも分かってると思ってたのよ。先方のご両親も大変あなたのことを気に入ってるそうよ。もしあなたに父さんのように一国一城を築きたい夢があるなら、その手伝いができるのはあゆみさんの方でしょ。彼女の気持ちを裏切るの？
裏切るも何も、僕はあゆみさんと特に交流があったわけじゃない。お見合いをして、その後親たちが勝手に盛り上がってるだけじゃないか。数度無理やり引き合わされたけど、僕たちは互いに目さえ合わせちゃうね。
あゆみさんは育ちのいい奥ゆかしい女性でしょ。男性のジョージに目を合わせるなんて恥ずかしいしぶしつけでできなかっただけよ。あなたが目を見て話してくれなきゃ気持ちが感じられないと言うなら、彼女にそう注意するわ。きっとこれからはあなたの目を見て話してくれるはずよ。
Man, you can really sense the desperation in her voice.
あゆみさんと結婚させたいのは、それが母さんにとって利するからさ。母さんの縁談には僕の気持ちがわずかほども含まれていない。
ジョージ、どうしてそんなことを言うの。母さんがあなたのことを考えないことなんてあった？ないでしょ。親という漢字はどういう字？木の上に立って見ると書いて親なのよ。母さんたちはね、あなたよりはるかに高みから人生の遠くまでを展望してるの。そしてあなたが若さゆえの一時の感情で間違った道へ進もうとしているのが見えているの。だからこうして憎まれることを承知で言ってるのよ。あんたがどうでもいい子だったらこんな喧嘩しないわ。どこの変な女とでも勝手に結婚しなさいって放っておいてるわよ。ねえジョージ、母さんに全て任せなさい。もうあなたはシャノンちゃんに会わなくていいわ。全部母さんたちで話を
Yeah,
つけ
it
てあげる。
really sounds like Shannon's about to be murdered. But maybe flip side, maybe it's gonna be Ava and Hideyoshi that might be the one murdered, and then maybe George will be the one behind it because he'd be like, he said he would do anything to have that relationship with Shannon.
大丈夫よ。シャノンちゃんにも悪いようにはしない。だってジョージに成長のきっかけをくれた人だものね。ちゃんとそれに配慮してあげるから。だからあとはもう母さんたちに任せなさい、ジョージ。
Sometime during Ava's rage, tears had started to drip from her eyes, as though those tears had caused him to hesitate. George turned his back and sagged his shoulders. George was, after all, only a child of man. Though he understood that marriage required nothing more than the consent of both people, He couldn't get over his desire for his parents' acceptance, and so he was torn between the tears of the mother who had always helped him and the fiancé he had chosen. Or was he? Ooh, it just got real quiet.
いいよね
It's time. What?
そろそろ
What? What? It's time for what? What? Are you about to do something to your mom?
今日まで立派に育ててもらって
Is it him saying like I basically it's time for me to like cut the strings and be like I'm willing to be disowned right now.
僕もこう思って親になったら母さんみたいな親になるよ。子供のために本当に戦える世界で一番尊敬できる親にね。
ジョージ。
With his back still towards her, George threw away his umbrella and slowly stepped out from beneath the eaves into the rain. Then he slowly turned around. It was, without a doubt, the familiar face of Ava's beloved son. However, he stood there now as his own man, self-controlled and independent enough that the blood connection between them might even be forgotten.
もうそろそろいいと思うんだ。
何がよ。
子離れしてもいいんじゃないか母さんは。
That is a scary face.
ここからはもう親子の関係はなしで話そうじゃないか。僕はジョージ、君はエヴァ。親だからどうこうというのは抜きにして互いの立場から本音をぶつけようじゃないか。君が僕を望み通りの相手と結婚させたい理由は経済的事情、世間体、それから未だいさかいのなくならないおじさんたちへの見栄、それ以外に何もない。
Damn, he cut right to the heart of it.
いっそそれをすっきり認めてくれた方が潔いね。僕はこれから僕の立場だけで語るから君もそうした方がいいんじゃないかな。負けるよ君。
Wow. I need to have like, are they gonna have like the hypothetical, like are they gonna fight right now? They're gonna pull out weapons, like magical weapons and go to... This is the fight, this is the trial right here. George's eyes no longer contained any trace of his love and respect for his mother. There was only a frigid glare as he gazed ruthlessly down at the witch who was trying to bind his future.
ジョージ。どうして母さんをそんな目で見るの。
今僕は母さんを見ていないからさ。僕の目に映っているのは僕の選び取ろうとする未来の前に立ちふさがる試練の壁だけさ。母さんだって人間だ。夢や野心があってそれを今も追い続けてるのは知ってる。そしてそれを素晴らしいと思う。自分の夢を決して諦めないことの大変さを僕たちは知っているのだから。
I need to inherit your wonderful strength. I've learned a lot from my parents, my friends, and Sayo, and I've grown.
その最後に学び獲得して完成されるのが本当の後宮ジョージという男なんだ。僕は今あなたという最後の壁を。
He's reached his final form right now. Okay. Alright, George is pretty cool in this moment. He's probably one of my least favorite characters. But at this moment, he's cool. Once again, I'm also kind of on Ava's side. Not because of, you know, the reasoning that she wants him to be with someone else. When she said the same thing about, like, have you consummated your marriage yet? In my mind, just be like, it's because of the issues I have with their relationship. I'm like, yeah, I agree with Ava. I hope that's not the case. But with Ava, it's just like, is she tricking you? Is she tricking you with the pregnancy? Is that why? So, like, I'm kind of on Ava's side. I'm not really crazy about the relationship, but I also like George for this moment that he's like, all right, I've grown. I'm my own man now. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm speaking from my heart, and I'm laying it all bare. Oh god, I'm just waiting for her to, like, fucking kick her. Like, what? He said... What? Ava had disappeared. What? The pouring rain landed evenly across the ground everywhere. I want to see this animated him like going and doing that kick like he did when he was fighting Gap. And she just disappeared like a ninja. Oh, well, it was blocked very slightly in one place. However, there was no one there. Standing on the ground isn't the only way to block the path of the rain. Are we actually going to get a fight between Ava and George? He did say that she was a witch. He said, the witch standing in my path. Then could it be... Oh my god. Oh my gosh, are we about to get... Oh shit! Right. She does have her witch side. Wow, it's been a while since we've seen Ava Torice. Whenever this song starts up, we know shit's about to go down. Oh, I'm excited. In the rain-filled sky, with the moon that shouldn't have been visible behind her, was the golden witch of the future who had finally obtained everything of the Ushiromiya family. Even the drastic change in his mother's appearance didn't faze George. On to the contrary, he seemed to be moved by her boldness, because his mother had honestly and truly displayed her true nature. Now I can confidently show her my true self. Wow. This is happening. Does that mean Jessica's going to be fighting her parents too? In her trial? With that first step, he felt something odd beneath his feet. He knew the sticky sensation, which didn't quite feel like mud, represented his mother's arrogance trying to prevent him from making that first step. Son Wukong, the Monkey King, wanted to become a god and was tested by the Buddha. The Buddha told him, "If you can jump free from the palm of my hand, I will grant you your wish." Then, son Wukong managed to reach where he thought was the end of the world and found 5 pillars standing there, only to discover they were the Buddha's fingers and that he still hadn't left the Buddha's hand. On the pitch-black earth soaked by the pounding rain, there was what appeared to be ominously glowing bands of faint red, and George had placed his first step directly on top of one. It was deep and viscous, and it held George's foot in place. From Ava's perspective, as she looked down from the sky, it looked like a vast red spiderweb that radiated out with George at the center. The vast red spider web on the ground scooped up George as easily as scooping scum out of a pot. Then it lifted him into the air like a deer caught in a net and swung him about. Ava's insane laugh was as innocent as a grade schooler happily swinging about a bag filled with her gym clothes, and cruel in equal measure. Oh, I do not miss the Ava Torice laugh. This is her trick, right? The red spider web? Was that the... I know that there was one episode, like right at the very end, when all of a sudden there was all of these red truths just came flying out. I think that was Ava Torice? Maybe? That seems to be her special move.
覚えてるさ。ピアノ教室だよ。今でも猫踏んじゃったを聞くと背中。
幼稚園の頃はバイオリン教室だったわ。できる子はやってそうでしょ。あんた才能なさそうだったからね。途中でピアノに変えたけど。じゃあ水曜日は覚えてる？
覚えてるさ。進学塾の日だよ。遠くてね。通うのが苦痛だった。
じゃあ木曜日は？
I'm waiting for George to make that comeback.
補習塾だ？暗記科目は苦手だったものね。あなた応用はできるのに暗記は苦手な典型的なやればできる子だったわ。
痛烈だね。子供が三者面談で言われて一番イラつく言葉だよ。
馬を水場に連れて行くことはできるが水を飲ますことはできない。
イギリスの格言だね。
あなたのやる気を出して維持させるのが一番苦労した
Wow.
わ。
George was bound hand and foot by the bright red spider web, reduced to the witch's plaything. She would innocently swing him around, then smash him about, all with an insane laugh. Again and again. I'm guessing, for this trial, I'm guessing Jessica and George are both going to lose, and Beatrice is going to win. That's my guess. Or there's going to be some twist where none of them win.
金曜日は覚えてる？
もちろんさ。ユニークな塾だってね。親と一緒の塾なんていろいろな意味で窮屈だったよ。
Man, the more I hear about this, the more I'm like, man, George's childhood sounds like it sucked.
子に釣り竿を買うな。一緒に釣りに行け。
母さんはイギリスの教育論が好きだね。
親にとっても辛い塾だったわね。でもあれが一番あんたには効果的だったわ。高いお熱射、毎週金曜の夜を費やさなければならない面倒。でも一番効果があった。その時悟ったの。子供はね、親が見ていないと伸びないの。子が目なら親は太陽だわ。太陽なし芽吹く草木も咲かせる花も存在しないの。
Still bound hand and foot, George was thrown, slammed, and smashed. He could do nothing. He was still like Sun Wukong, unable to leave the palm of his mother's hand. However, since he wouldn't surrender, he could still show resistance at any time.
じゃあ土曜日は
家庭教師が来てくれてたね。
向こうから来てくれるから楽だったでしょ。
聖域である自室に毎週他人を迎え入れるのは苦痛だったよ。先生が帰った後に残る汗の匂いが今でも思い出せるくらい嫌だったね。
あなたに学習姿勢を叩き込んでくれる素晴らしい先生だったわよ。 弁護士の相談費用並みのお月謝を払った甲斐が本当にあったわ。
そして迎える日曜日と塾の予定がない月曜日だけが僕の安息日だった。これは皮肉だね。火曜日から土曜日までの塾が僕を押さえつけてきたのか。まさに僕は孫悟空だったわけだ。
そうね。私の手のひらから逃れたいなんて思い上がりはお釈迦様にご行山で潰してもらうといいわ。
Sun Wukong, who wanted to become a god, was crushed by the 5 mountains of fire, water, wood, metal, and earth, and sealed away. These are the 5 elements that the days of the week, Tuesday through Saturday, are named after in Japanese. Oh! I did not know that. Interesting. Only now did George, who had always admired Sun Wukong, recognize this greatest of ironies.
思い上がったあなたは孫悟空と同じに少し反省とお仕置きが必要だわ。あなたが改心したら私が解放してあげる。
それは解放じゃないね。洗脳だ。
何も考えなくていいの。
ママに全て任せちゃえば。私があなたの全てを決めてあげる。それがあなたにとって一番素晴らしい人生なのよ。世界で一番知的であなたのために全てを捧げてくれる女性を用意してあげる。全ての成功もそれに至る道も全てママが用意してあげるわ。
And she is like the worst kind of like those pageant moms. It was just like they weren't able to have it when they were young, so it's like they put all of it into their kid and just pressure them, be like, I'm gonna live vicariously through you because I couldn't be successful. And in Ava's case, I feel bad for her because she tried so hard, but because she's a woman, there's only so high that she can go in her, societal status. So she's like, I'm gonna put it all into my son, even if he's miserable.
そしてやがては後ろ宮家で最高の名誉である
She wanted to be the head,
当主の後継者にあなたは指名されるの。
That's all she ever wanted. And she's like, I know realistically it's never gonna happen for me, so having him be it is the next best thing.
それから初めてあなたは自分の人生を始めなさい。大笑わせないでよ。あんたはね、まだ生まれてさいないのよ。これはあんたを捉える私の巣じゃないわ。あんたを慈しんで育む
Oh God.
私の子宮の中なのよ。
She's like the worst of helicopter mom. George was slammed against the ground over and over. It was heartless cruelty unlike anything one would expect a blood relative's son to receive. However, in Ava's eyes, perhaps even this was a sign of love for her precious son. The human-shaped lump of flesh ensnared in the red net was slammed over and over, then thrown high into the air, where it was caught by a massive spiderweb suspended in the sky. George hung there pitifully, as though crucified, still covered in fresh blood and not even twitching. Even if there had been some power to resist remaining to him, the red web holding him there would have held even that in check. The rain, which had been falling non-stop since the beginning, quietly tormented and pitied him.
ご行山に封じられてしばらく頭を冷やしなさい。シャノンちゃんが悪い子だからやめなさいと言ってるわけじゃないのよ。彼女はジョージに青春と成長のきっかけを与えてくれたとても良い子だわ。でも後先を考えない婚約は別の問題よ。相手が彼女だからいけないと言ってるわけじゃないの。それを分かりなさい。
George, are you gonna just... You're not... Yeah, this is where he's gonna fight back. I was like, he's being. I know it's his mom, but come on, man. Like, he's not gonna fight at all.
行為を責めよう。だね。
This is it. This is his. Here we go. Super Saiyan moment,
これ
right?
もイギリスの格言だ。
本当にあなたは賢い子に育ったわ。いいえ、育っているわ。私のお腹の中で。
Oh no, I hate all this where she's like, I'm gonna put you back. Basically, she's like, I'm gonna put you back in the womb. You're gonna stay in my metaphorical womb forever, and I will never let you have your own life.
もう少しじっくりと育ちなさい。
I'm half expecting her to turn into like a giant and literally shove him back up into her cooch and be like, you need to marinate up there a little bit more. You're clearly not done yet.
お仕置きは終わりよ。謝りなさい、母さんに。
The spiderweb released George reluctantly. Then it threw him to the ground beneath the cloudy sky.
ありがとう。母さん。
Come on, this is where he's gonna... It was all George could do to get up on his hands and knees. Though he wiped the mud away and stood his ground, he still couldn't raise his head.
これまでのすべてが僕を思ってのことだったんだね。ありがとう。本当にありがとう。
そうよ。今は憎いでしょ。でもいつかきっと感謝するわ。私がどれほどあなたを愛していたかをきっと理解する。
火曜日から土曜日までの連日の塾での縛り付けも僕を立派な男に育てようという母さん。
これもイギリスの格言よ。子供を幸福で包むことが最高の教育。
ありがとう。だから僕からも母さんに
Oh, what's he gonna say?
イギリスの格言を送るよ。
なに？
すべての木に斧を一撃ずつ加えても一本の木も切り倒せはしない。
なに？それはどういう意味？
Here we go,
こ
here
っ
we
ちの方
go.
がいいかな。学問に時間を費やしすぎることは怠惰に過ぎない。
Are they... This is how their back and forth is gonna go? They're just gonna throw British idioms at each other?
フランシス・ベーコン。
The man, drenched in mud and fresh blood, straightened his crooked glasses and slowly stood up. Though he was covered in filth, his appearance had a divine quality to it, something that could only appear on a self-controlled man, not one who had merely been dozing in his mother's amniotic fluid.
僕がサヨから学んだことは数えきれない。僕は彼女の前で初めて勇気と男気と向上心とウィットとユーモアと、それからちょっぴりのおしゃれを学んだんだ。皮肉だね。今日母さんが僕を立派になったと認める要素のほぼ全てが母さんの教育の賜物じゃないんだ。
Oh.
ジョージ、あんたはまだそんなことを戻してあげるわ。
Oh
母さん
no.
の子宮に。
Oh no.
そしてもう一度暖かな海で育て直してあげる。
As Ava howled, another bright red spider web appeared at George's feet and tried to scoop him up into the air again. However, that instant, a powerful magic circle could be seen. Oh, that's right! They're working together! Shannon's gonna come out and protect him! A powerful magic circle could be seen in the area surrounding George for just a moment. I forgot that they're working together! Alright, I'm kinda digging this, actually. Faster than he could be scooped up by the spider web, George jumped, and with a sharp kick of the heel and a magnificent forward flip, he cut the shackles of that spider web apart. That smooth movement proved he had possessed the power to escape from those shackles all along. He'd willingly allowed himself to be bound by that web.
母さんのこれまでの恩を一つずつ痛みで相殺させてもらったよ。おかげで僕も親離れがきっちりとできそうだ。必要だね。たまには親子喧嘩も。
ジョージ、私に どうしてそこまで逆らってあんな小娘と。
必要なのはやはり母さんの子離れのようだね。じゃあそろそろいいかな。
何がよ。
そろそろいいかな。反撃しても。
Oh, here we go. Alright, here's some more epic music happening. The curtain of spiderwebs that Ava shot out in defense were all too slow. George weaved through them in that instant, and the next, he was right before her eyes. And just expecting him to appear behind her with a samurai sword. Nothing personal, kid. Ava jumped out of the way of a kick that would have knocked her feet out from under her, and blocked the second half of George's double roundhouse with a high kick of her own.
母さんの習い事で一つだけ感謝しているものがあるよ。
それは何曜日のかしら。
長期休暇のたびに集中的に習わされた武道教室の数々だよ。
Ooh. Oh, I hate that laugh so much. Ava's swift feet flashed like lightning. Low, 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 mid-level attack. As George's head fell forward, she caught it in both hands as though she was about to smash it against the ground. It was then met with Ava's knee as it rose like a bolt of lightning from the earth.
ムエタイも習えばよかったのに。ジョージも一緒に習えばもっと楽しかったわ。
そうだね。母さんと一緒に武道を学ぶときが一番楽しかったよ。
なら今が一番楽しいんじゃない？楽しいね、ジョージ。楽しいね。
楽しいかい、母さん。息子と遊ぶのは。
楽しいわ。あなたは私の最愛の息子。私のお腹の中で
Please stop saying that.
優しく愛してあげるわ。あなたがお腹を蹴る
Oh no, please stop. Oh, please stop.
了解だ。だがその蹴りはお腹の外からになるけどね。
George buried his knee sharply into Ava's abdomen. An instant before she felt the pain of that fierce attack, Ava watched her son's kick with a proud smile, and then she vomited.
母さんももう年なんだから、いい加減そういう若い子向きの服は自重した方がいいんじゃないかな。
ジョージ。
Her chin still covered in vomit, Ava looked up at George in twisted anguish. She could see how pathetic her face was by her reflection in his glasses.
母さんも僕も一緒に子供時代とお別れしよう。さようなら、母さん。
The violent lightning and rain made time freeze. George's beautiful kick had stopped an inch from Ava's chest. However, the power of the red magic circle surrounding George had already pierced Ava's body. Though he had stopped without hitting her, blood poured out of Ava's back. No wound had been left on her chest, but the heart inside it had been struck through. Ava slumped backwards and landed in a puddle with a splash. Well, 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 all right. There was no convulsions. Her life had been ended without leaving her even an instant to writhe about in pain.
その辺にいるんじゃないかい、ガブ。
Yep, all right. All right, round 2 didn't end so well with George last time when he fought Gap. As he straightened his glasses, George spoke to the rose thicket behind him. Then a pitch black hole opened in the air, and Gap jumped out.
大したもんね。あのエヴァ・ベアトリーチェを
I'm guessing she's like,
打ち倒すなんて。
is she monitoring this, like the trial? Like she's kind of like a referee?
やはり痛かい。余計なちょっかいを出さなくてありがとう。親子水入らずで過ごせたよ。
まさかいなかったわよ。今あなたが私を召喚したんだわ。
どっちでもいいさ。君にお願いがあるんだ。
聞く義理はあるの？
聞いてくれないのかい？
With his back still facing her, George reset his glasses. The threat in his voice held the solemn presence of a king who ruled over demons. His majesty made Gap gulp, and she licked her lips before bowing respectfully to his back.
私はイケてる男が好きだけど、王者はもっと好きだわ。何なりとお命じを、魔王陛下。
後宮家の当主に憧れ、その夢と妄執に生きた彼女の亡骸をふさわしい場所に安置してほし
い。じゃあ金蔵の書斎へ。
Is this when the bodies are going to start moving around right now?
いや、貴賓室がいいな。屋敷の2階のあの開かずの貴賓室。
あの部屋ね。了解したわ。ジョージ陛下。
Gap approached Ava's corpse and lightly tapped the ground with her right heel. When she did, a large hole opened up, swallowed both Gap and the corpse, and closed. After a while, a small hole opened in the air, and the staff Ava always carried, which was marked with a one-winged eagle that symbolized the head of the Ushiromiya family, was spat out into a puddle, because the corpse would no longer have any use for it. He's like, well, this is appropriate for a monarch, isn't it? George slowly approached that staff and stepped down hard on the tip, or he'll break it. When he did, the staff spun violently into the air, and after passing by the blue moon, which honored the Demon King, it flew— oh, never mind. It flew into George's outstretched hand. The instant he grasped it, another fierce bolt of lightning struck nearby, and by the time the flash faded, the staff he was holding had become a spray of gold butterflies and disappeared. Damn it, it caught me multiple times. I'm like, he's gonna get it? No, he's not. Maybe he is. No, he's not. It was as though George had held the staff up to the heavens and crushed it out of existence.
これで僕はノルマクリアだ。次の人に番を譲るよ。
自分の母さんを手にかけるなんて。
自分を世界で一番最初に愛してくれる人であり、そして一番最後に決別すべき人だ。
Well, he said he would do anything. He said in that test before that he would kill everybody but Shannon, and I guess he kind of proved that he was serious.
それが家を出るということだよ。これが僕が作用をめとるために見せられる勇気だ。
I'm pretty sure he just metaphorically killed his mother, not actually killed his mother. At least the Ava Torice, the witch part of her, that, you know, the honest part of her, that basically wanted to put George up back into the womb. It's like, you got a tough act to follow there, Jessica. And Kanon's like, oh shit. We gotta follow up with that?
あっぱれなり後ろ宮ジョージ。まずは見事であるぞ。
たとえゲーム上のこととはいえ、駒のこととはいえ、自分の母親を殺すのは愉快なことではないね。しかし、それが君たちの課す試練だと言うから、僕は答えたよ。
He stared at the two demons. The demons looked at each other, then showed their surprise with their now familiar exaggerated gestures.
素晴らしいわ。なんて見事なのかしら、ゼタル。
そうだね、フルフル。ジョージ君の決意は本物だ。どうやら僕は君を見誤っていたようだね。謝るよ。許してほしい。
George chose not to go along with this almost theatrical conversation. He just quietly looked down upon the game board, found the piece representing his mother, which was right next to his, and tipped it over. This was the trial that Zephyr and Furfuro had set them. For the love of each other, take the life of another. It was similar to the game within Beato's fourth game, where they were each given the, 3 options as part of a test, to select the next family head. However, a pair of lovers would never abandon each other's lives, so they were automatically left with just the option of sacrificing the life of another instead. In fact, it was merciful that the demons hadn't ordered them to take the lives of everyone other than themselves. And besides, it only meant taking those lives as pieces on the board. For the versions of themselves to whom the game board was the only world, this was a tragic parricide. But for these ones who sat around the game board in this witch's tea room, it was nothing more than a movement of the pieces representing George's will to overcome his parents. However, even if it was just a single life within one of an infinite number of fragment worlds, the fact remained that the demons had forced him to take it. George appeared to have distanced himself from the events on the demons' game board, but Jessica still seemed to resist the idea of stealing another person's life, even if it was only their life as a game piece.
おじけづいたか？
いえ、バトラさんの望むベアトリーチェはこんなことでは。
I wonder if Beatrice is going to have to kill her older sister version to become the version that Bethler wants.
誰でもいい。次なる犠牲者を選び出してほしい。
誰でもいい。次なる挑戦者は名乗り出てほしい。
誰も名乗り出ないなら
僕の勝ちということだね。
そうなるわ。ならばおめでとう。後ろ宮ジョージ。
あなたとあなたの愛する人の恋の成就へ至る扉の鍵を僕たちは今こそ授けん。
This seems too easy. Come on, someone step forward. Come on. Yeah.
待てよ。
As the demons delightedly named George the victor, they were interrupted by the next challenger.
ジェシカさん。
次は私だぜ。いいぜ。やってやろう。私だってカノン君のこと半端に考えてるわけじゃねえってこと見せてやらう。
All right, well, that was an interesting episode. We have the love trials underway to see who will get to be with the person that they love. Speaking of love, that weird little interlude of Erika, her kind of backstory about a relationship with a cheating boyfriend that kind of came out of nowhere. I'm assuming there's some sort of metaphorical reason for that, some sort of connection to this, but, and we had George showing that he truly was honest when he said he would kill anyone. So it seems like up next we're going to have Jessica is going to be the next in the love trial. It is also just about midnight, so it seems like the actual murders, will be happening soon. I hope. I think. We'll just have to see, but this was a really fun episode, and I'm excited to see what we have in store next time. So thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for part 66 next week. Until then, bye. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Nana, Kaori Makoto, Revealing Storm, Tequila Mockingbird, Jared Fan, Izzy Ibo, Asborn Kennedy, Harry Gazif, Icognito, Locus Corollas, Mad Goldsmith, Wu Sing Chrysalis, and Lumi Arclight.